covering Southeast Georgia and the Lowcountry. This is WJCL 22 Morning News. See us now.
Right now on WJCL 22 Morning News at 6, the latest on the Georgia runoff Senate election, including a projected winner. Plus,
do members of Congress have evidence on their side to object to Joe Biden's Electoral College win? Get the facts with the National Investigative Unit coming up.
And a Savannah tradition canceled once again.
Thank you so much for joining us at 6 a.m. on your post-election day Wednesday morning. I'm Ashley Garrett.
And I'm Emma Hamilton. We have a ton of news to get to this morning, of course. But first, let's check that certified most accurate forecast with our meteorologist, Jonathan Myers. Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, Emma. And the day is starting out with some cold temperatures for some of us this morning into the low 30s, around freezing there. Actually, right at freezing in Statesboro, near the freezing mark. Metters, Statesboro. Also for Reedsville there at 33, 35 in Glenville, Hinesville, 39 degrees. So there's definitely some patchy frost to start things off this morning for some of you folks inland, especially west of I-95. Close to the coast this morning, starting out in the 40s for Beaufort and mid-40s for Hilton Head. Live radar, no rain out there. It is a dry start to the day, and all we're going to see another quiet weather day, very similar to yesterday, just mainly sunny skies. We'll take you all the way into the afternoon. So out the door for work this morning, temperatures in the 30s, 41 by 8 o'clock, and there's that sunshine today. Grab the sunglasses. You'll need them through the afternoon. So our forecast today, we will see cooler temperatures than yesterday despite plenty of sunshine. Hilton Head 56, 59 for Bluffton, Savannah 60, 61 for Hinesville, and also for Baxley. And as we go into later today, we will see dry weather, but by tomorrow, though, I do expect to see a good chance for rain. I'll detail that for you in less than 10 minutes.
Jonathan, time now for election results. In the race between Republican incumbent Senator Kelly Loeffler and Democratic challenger Raphael Warnock, ABC News projects Warnock wins, becoming Georgia's first black senator and the first senator from Savannah in 150 years. As you can see on your screen, Warnock leads the race with 50.6% of the vote. Savannah Mayor Van Johnson is congratulating Warnock on Twitter with his victory, writing, "Congratulations, son of Savannah, now Senator-elect Reverend Warnock. History is made in Georgia."
And right now in the race between Republican incumbent Senator David Perdue and his Democratic challenger Jon Ossoff, a very tight race here this morning as well. Jon Ossoff is leading this morning with 50.2% of the vote compared to Perdue's 49.8%. Now, Georgia state law allows a recount in any election if the margin between the candidates is 0.5% or less. Right now, the race between Loeffler and Warnock is out of that range. The race between Perdue and Ossoff does fall into that recount area. The Secretary of State's office says one of the candidates must request a recount within 2 business days of results being certified. It's important to note here that recounts do not automatically happen.
The Senate is what's at stake in this runoff, Emma. And after the record early turnout and massive amounts of money raised for the 2 runoff races, all that's left to do now is to count the votes.
Nadia Romero explains how the outcome can shape the Senate and the future of the Biden administration.
The polls are closed, and now the wait for results begins.
There are a lot of votes out there, as y'all know, and we have a path to victory, and we're staying on it.
Let us rise up, greet the morning, and meet the challenges of this moment. Together we can do the necessary work and win the future for all of our children.
As the votes are counted in the high-stakes Georgia runoff races, state officials are trying to temper expectations.
I think it'll probably take till tomorrow sometime. Really depends on what is the difference in the vote totals, how close the races are. And so as soon as we can get those out to everyone, we know how important this is, not just for Georgia, but for our entire nation.
Hanging in the balance, control of the United States Senate.
At what point did you make the decision, I'm going to fly from Virginia to go vote in person here?
So it was literally this morning, because I had thought about it, and then this morning I was just thinking about it, and I knew I would regret it forever if I didn't come back to vote.
If both Democrats win, each party would have 50 Senate seats. Incoming Vice President Kamala Harris would serve as the tie-breaking vote, essentially easing the path of the Biden administration.
This is the last line of defense against this radical socialist agenda.
This is history unfolding in Georgia right now.
With record early and absentee turnout for a runoff in Georgia, the margins are expected to be razor thin, and the closer the race, the longer it could take to determine a winner.
I think it's going to take us a little bit of time here, certainly unless there's some sort of runaway in the early results, which doesn't seem to be the case.
In Atlanta, I'm Nadia Romero.
Now, Senator Loeffler has not made a public statement since ABC and other news outlets called the race for Warnock.
Also making headlines this morning, Gabriel Sterling with the Georgia Secretary of State's office says a Republican loss would fall squarely on the shoulders of President Trump.
Well, I'll speak for outside of my role working for the state. This is a personal opinion that it'll fall squarely on the shoulders of President Trump and his actions since November 3rd. When you tell people your vote doesn't count, it's been stolen, and people start to believe that, and then you go to the two senators and tell them to ask the Secretary of State to resign and trigger a civil war inside the Republican Party when you need Republicans to unite, all of that stems from his decision-making since the November 3rd election.
Meantime, this morning, thousands of votes still have to be counted in Chatham County. WJCL's Daniel Robinson joins us live now. And Daniel, first of all, good morning to you. And you are going to tell us when counting is going to resume, we understand.
Yeah, hey, Ashley, good morning to you as well. They're expected to resume counting here in Chatham County between 8 and 10 o'clock this morning. Now, election officials did send the people who are counting the absentee ballots home around 11:30 last night, and they say that the reason for that was because they had already counted everything that they needed to at the time, and they wanted to send them home so they could get some rest before resuming counting today.
We expect that the Board of Registrars will deliver an additional 3,000 to 4,000 absentee ballots to us, and they can get started on that in the morning. They were finished doing everything that was delivered to them tonight.
Now, officials say that most, if not all, of the votes that were cast yesterday in person have already been uploaded. However, the Board of Registrars will most likely be delivering additional ballots to the Board of Elections office over the next 3 days to be counted. And that would not only include those absentee ballots that are remaining, but also include military ballots and some provisional ballots as well. Now, in terms of a timeline, election officials say that they do expect to have everything that they have in hand or in person today counted by noon, but those results would still be unofficial until they are certified. Now, again, here in Chatham County, they're expected to resume counting anywhere between 8 and 10 this morning. Live in Savannah, Daniel Robinson, WJCL 22 News.
Daniel, thank you. Some Chatham County voting sites stayed open late last night to ensure more residents could get their votes in. Our Danae Bucci reports.
Chatham County Board of Elections fought to keep 2 precincts open past 7 yesterday, and voters I spoke to said that extra time was much needed. The Beach High School and Old Chatham County Courthouse locations were allowed to stay open about 30 minutes after 7 p.m. because of delays earlier in the day. Had it not been for those expanded hours, several people in Chatham County would not have been able to cast their ballots in this historic election.
I was going to vote today, but I was just running a little, low on time because I had work. Stacey Abrams, she posted on Instagram that 2 locations in Chatham County had, extended poll times. So, of course, I live right down the street. So I came and I voted.
And there were about 10 people at the Beach High School precinct that were able to use those extended hours. Reporting from Savannah, Danae Bucci, WJCL 22 News.
Well, it's a historic day in our nation's capital, Ashley, as a joint session of Congress today will certify the election of President-elect Joe Biden.
But some Republicans, Emma, are expected to try and overturn the electoral votes, which were decided by millions in several close states. So the big question this morning is, do those lawmakers have evidence to back up their claims of election fraud?
We get the facts from National Investigative Unit correspondent Mark Albert in Washington.
We won the election in a landslide. Almost 75 million people voted for me.
Despite President Donald Trump's repeated claims of victory, he did not win the presidential election. Joe Biden defeated him by more than 7 million votes, winning more than 81 million overall, the most by any U.S. presidential candidate in American history. Biden then went on to win the Electoral College a month later with 306 electoral votes. The exact margin in the Electoral College Trump had called a landslide 4 years ago when he got the very same number. How else do we know Biden beat Trump? Because Trump's own appointees say so. Since Election Day, the Trump campaign has tried to overturn the results with claims of voter fraud. But Trump's own administration says there is no proof of widespread fraud that could change the outcome, including his hand-picked Attorney General Bill Barr, his hand-picked cybersecurity chief, Chris Krebs, his hand-picked head of the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, Ben Hovland. In the closest states, results have been certified by Republican governors Trump endorsed and by Republican secretaries of state. Even after courts dismissed dozens of lawsuits because they contained no evidence of fraud, President Trump's own picks for the U.S. Supreme Court wouldn't even hear his final plea. The U.S. Constitution requires Congress to meet in a joint session today to count the electoral ballots already certified by each state, every single one. The president of the Senate, in this case Vice President Mike Pence, opens the certificates and, quote, "The votes shall then be counted," according to the Constitution.
I hope Mike Pence comes through for us.
There is no provision in the Constitution that allows Pence to delay or stop or change the count. Pence's official White House bio says he is a, quote, "champion for the Constitution." Finally, of all the House Republicans objecting to certifying electoral votes for Biden, every single one of them shared a ballot with President Trump. And not one of them alleged fraud or objected to taking their own seat when the new session of Congress began on Sunday. Those are the facts. In Washington, I'm Chief National Investigative Correspondent Mark Albert.
Despite pressure from President Trump, sources say Vice President Mike Pence won't block certification of President-elect Joe Biden's win. These sources say Pence told the president he doesn't have the power to derail the process, but the president's campaign tweeted a statement from the president saying he and Pence are in total agreement and that Pence has the constitutional authority to decertify the results or send them back to the states.
Well, a lawyer who assisted President Trump on his January 2nd call, pressuring Georgia officials to find him votes, has resigned from her firm. The law firm Foley and Lardner says that Cleta Mitchell, who you see there on your screen, made the decision just yesterday. And this news comes the day after the firm said it was concerned with Mitchell's involvement in Trump's call.
Former President Jimmy Carter and First Lady Rosalind Carter will not be attending President-elect Biden's inauguration in person. That's according to a spokeswoman for Carter's. She says while the Carters will not travel to Washington for the big day, they have sent their best wishes to Biden and Vice President-elect Harris and look forward to a successful administration.